Hello, healers. I'm Roseanne, and this is part 2 of our discussion with Matt Wood. He's a healer, a teacher, and an author of many books. I have 2 of them here. I'll just show them to you. This one is The Practice of Traditional Western Herbalism. And here is one of his big ones, The Book of Herbal Wisdom, physically and on other levels too. It's a big book. So, Matt, thank you again for being here with me.
Thank you.
We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
And we started talking in the first part about this connection to living nature, the living nature. Mm-hmm. And we talked about some concepts for people to understand what this is so that they can unlearn what they've learned growing up to reconnect. But you write about this in many different ways from many different angles. Let's talk about one of those angles.
Yeah, so the living nature communicates with us in different ways, partly through our heart and sense of really kind of right and wrong, like because the laws of karma are built into that world, and so we feel it just feels right or doesn't feel right, you know. So that's important. We got to listen to that voice, but intellectually too. So it also communicates with us through the intuition. And it's like, so through feeling, that is emotion, and intuition are the natural outlets for us. And our world over here in that physical world is more thinking and materiality, you know. And those together are the four, functions that Jung talks about, thinking, feeling, intuition, and sensation. But at any rate, so a second way that nature communicates is through the intuition, and that is seeing patterns. Nature exists in patterns. Nature doesn't think like, well, I'm gonna fire up that CP450 pathway in that liver there. You know, it's more like it's all fit together, all working together as a pattern, as the liver click, 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 and that's how, and actually we'll talk about energetics if we have a chance to. That's energetics work because nature just thinks in terms of, oh, it's cold now, or it's getting warmer, or it's getting hotter and damper, it's getting hotter and drier, and that sets off triggers like traumas in creatures and body. Plants or close their pores, open their pores. Humans do too, and so we deal with that changing environment. Nature thinks in those patterns like that. Well, so that then leads to, so nature's communicating with us through our intuition. And then we have what's called the language of nature, or the language of the birds, I think it's called, and also the green tongue. Yeah.
This is significant. Matt Wood is known for talking about the green tongue. It's not a green thumb. It's not people who have a green thumb who are great with plants. This is something different. The green tongue. What are we talking about?
I should have actually have gotten some green candy or something. And like
for a visual.
Yeah, right.
A visual. Right. No, but it's more of a concept.
Yes. Right. Okay. It's not literal. Okay. I will say, yeah, the idea is there's an esoteric writer in Europe, I don't know if he's still alive, David Ovason, it's obviously a made-up name, who talks about the green tongue. So, okay, so the green tongue is like, you begin to realize at a certain point that, like, because of these patterns are on and on and on, and these patterns just constantly are available to us to see and then to talk about. And first is we learn to see. We see them like, so, you know, you could say, well, when I was a little kid, I just go with my own experience. So I'm like 10, 11, 12, maybe I'm 13, 14. Yeah, I remember going to high school and middle school. So, well, that person's like that person. Like, how come, like, wow, what's going on there? Like, those people, they're so similar and stuff. And so I got fascinated. And then later, and I didn't believe in astrology at the time because I thought astrology is like, ridiculously, how could the planets control us? But astrology teaches that language of energy types. If nothing else, it's a language of patterns. So then at age 20, I started learning astrology. And it's funny, so I did grow up on that that resin, we left when I was 2 plus something, and I didn't know how to speak either English or Muskogee, and I could understand both of them, but I didn't know how to speak. But that was partly the confusion, of 2 different speech patterns. But English is very bereft of these of any language for patterns. It was all edited out. It's all the mythology and the astrology and that, which was edited out in the 1600s. There's more of it in Shakespeare, for instance. So.
Oh, it was more poetic. You're saying the language is more poetic.
Yeah, it was more. But this makes it automatically poetic. That was something I'm going to get onto. But
Okay.
But when you begin to pick up on this, first you begin to see the patterns. Then it begins to affect your speech. Like you start talking that way and writing that way, and then you realize it's more poetic. That it's like it sounds better. You're speaking in pictures. But they're not just fantasy pictures. They're actually pictures of real things in a way.
It resonates. So
yes,
resonance.
Yes, that's exactly correct.
Okay.
That's a really important word. Yeah, these words have resonance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you do see that that person's like that person, or that tree. Well, I understand that tree now more because I see the resonance, what it's saying, its expression into the world.
And those are for visual learners. But if you're not a visual learner, you can, like for me, I feel it.
Yeah.
So I feel the resonance.
Yes.
But if we use all our senses, we could theoretically see it, hear it, feel it.
Yeah. Well, the word feeling it has 3 uses in English. I won't go into immediately, but it's emotional feeling, it's physical feeling, and it's actually what we use for intuition too. So like on old Star Trek, Captain Kirk, how did you, says the Vulcan, Mr. Spock, how did you figure that out, Captain? And he says, well, Mr. Spock, I just had a feeling. I just had a feeling. And actually, he's very much set as a intuitive throughout that. His whoever wrote it may have been conscious. It's like
Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah, he may have known about the 4 types, or else he just understood that. I mean, it's also in Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz and stuff. It's often in stories. And so we have Spock, the intellectual, and then we have Bones, the doctor. Like, no, the whole planet's going to die. How can you let the whole planet die? Pure emotionality. And then you have Scotty down on the engines. Whoa, we're getting it up to warp drive. It's a sensation type. We're running it, the mechanic, And then there's Spock, the intuitive, like we're going to go out into the galaxy and just, and just kind of run everything by intuition. So that's a really great example of those 4 types. And so the intuitive at any rate just has a feeling. Yeah. And I'm not sure exactly on what level you mean that, or maybe it feels so.
Well, for me, it's not always, it goes with a knowing too. It's a knowing that I can't explain.
Yes. See, that's that beginning of the green tongue. It's like you're receiving it, like you're getting, it's like nature is speaking to you, and you're resonating with these like knowledge, so you're picking up the energy in like a client or something, or just a person you see across the room or something, and I get that, or I'm resonating with it. And so
it's like I merge with them a little bit. It's like in nature, if we can feel like we're merging with the trees, you can't explain that. There's no language to describe that. But you're feeling in resonance with them. And I think when you can do that with nature, you can do that with everybody, because that's what you're talking about, is connecting with the nature within each person. With the living nature within each person.
And actually on this level, it's a little safer than when it's purely emotional. Oh, you get tangled up in their emotions. But when that intuitive aspect of that defines the type, the energy, what the energy is expressing as, the energy body of the person is a little safer to tune into. The energy body is that's like they call the etheric self, and the astral self is more the emotional, and you get more lost in the other person's emotions. You can't tell. At least we're not. At this point in cultural history, we're just not. That's my emotion, that's yours, But that'll come if we survive that long. But
that'll be in the next dimension.
Right.
Stay tuned for the next dimension.
World, yes, the next world, which hopefully will be a continuation of this world, but a little bit. So that's a combination of what I was talking about in the last class and this one, the last discussion, which is the living nature. You're tuning in, you're feeling that, And then you're also getting that message of what the trees, like the oaks, they have a kind of, I'd call it, like I learned a language, Saturnian. That's what the astrologers would say. The oaks are very Saturnian. They're very serious and sitting there, and we're growing
Saturnian
really slow.
as in the Saturn?
Yeah.
Language of Saturn?
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
okay.
So they're growing real slow, and they're real steady and certain, and they don't make any mistakes along the way. We'll put our roots out over there, and the roots are bigger than they're above ground, so we'll get all that water. We're not going to starve to death in a drought. So they're very, in fact, like they come from tropical region and they still have their leaves on them. Not the bur oak, but the white oak and the red oak still have their leaves on them all through the winter because they haven't learned how to drop them yet. You know, it's like, you can drop them. It's winter time, huh? It's like, what? Bur oak, I'm ahead of you guys. I already dropped mine.
Okay.
But so they're very conservative and Saturnian and
Okay.
like that. Okay, so that's like an emanation from, that's a pattern you're picking up in nature. And like oak was the very first tree that I felt, the first plant that I felt like I understood the essence. Like, this is also like Heinlein, Robert Heinlein, the author, grok, to grok something, to get it, like, I grok that, that's really what you're talking about, that resonance, feeling, experience, that's in the Martian Chronicles. And
I grok that. Oh, that's
yes.
kind of a new expression then. We could say,
Yes.
I grok that. No,
Yes.
Nobody will know unless you're an herbalist
well,
or
yeah, it's
connected
like,
to nature.
it's kind of a non-muggle word.
Okay.
It is you'll find it in the online dictionaries and stuff. But so you pick up on that. And actually, so I had botany when I was 20 or 19. I just started studying astrology in it. The bur oak I did my report on it. My teacher, who was also kind of a mentor, Dr. Lawrence, like, after I did after I talked, he said, well, you're not a very good speaker, so your oral presentation wasn't very good, but because I had to learn astrology to know how to talk, and I hadn't yet mastered that. And he said, but you really understand, like he said, like the essence of that plant, I was like, golly, this is the University of Minnesota, like somebody actually like gets what I'm doing, like to resonate and to understand that. But I think he was such a deep botanist. I think he had that feeling too. So yeah. So actually, at that time I was studying astrology, finally age 20, 21, and after a year I could speak to other astrologers, but I couldn't speak to ordinary people. Then I realized, well, I'd like to talk to other people. So I'll translate it all from astrologies back into English. And presto, then after about a year, I could talk to people. And so I always have this thought process. I really kind of translate all the time. Like, it always feels like English always feels like a second language to me. It may actually literally be that Muskogee is like, click my mind. At any rate, I need to make the patterns and then go into the English words for it. And so
you're translating.
Yes.
You're translating something that is indescribable in words until you have the essence of the idea, the concept, and then you're trying to express yourself that way. And this is what all these different languages, we've all been divided in this world in our different languages, so we can't really communicate well with each other. We have to find a way to do that. And it is through nature that we can do that. So you're expressing that. This is how we do it.
Well, you put your finger on it. The green tongue is the language behind all the languages. Like, and I mean, you would say two different poets wouldn't say it the same way. Two different intuitives wouldn't. Two different herbalists might say it somewhat differently. But it's like so the green tongue is not a fixed actual. Kind of like taking like the tree of life and applying it, or astrology legalistically to everything. It's more poetic and flowing than that. But you learn that you learn these basic. It is important to learn some language of symbols, like the tarot cards or the astrological, or the animals, like in Native American, or the gods in ancient civilizations. And then that's very Venusian, that's very martial, that's very Saturnian,
You have reference points to talk about with other people who might understand it in a different way.
Yeah, and see, without reference points, you really can't say anything. But I was stuck at first. I had the reference points, but I couldn't talk to normal people. But then you say, oh, that's very, kind of conservative, and I see that kind of. I didn't say the tree was Saturnian when I was doing my presentation, but I described it totally in those terms. So you begin to, you master that, and then after that, after a year of training myself to speak, then I could speak all the time, and then I became very verbal. And now I'm like known as a speaker, but if people tried to talk to me when I was...
You're forced to speak.
Yeah.
People want to hear what you have in that head, in your heart, in your whole essence. So you are forced to speak it in the language now.
Yeah. And it also, it's strange. It changed me. I was really a visual artist as a kid. Like I could draw really well. And going through this change really made me a more, I hate to say, audio artist. I became a writer more because it was so important for me to make that transition to be able to communicate. So I love writing, and and
you're good at it.
Yeah,
Matt. You're really good at it.
Yeah,
and he has stories in here that really show you a picture of the experiences that he's had. Yeah. So it's not a lot of dry, science. It's stories, and exactly what he's talking about. He translates that so well into words here.
Yeah. So so as time, at first it's like, oh, the green tongue. I mean, first I thought, oh, the language of nature. I know it's out there. I can't get it. I can't, like that student I had, it's like, but actually all you do, you keep on thinking that way. You keep on receiving. You keep on explaining it to people, or to yourself at least, better and better. You keep on increasing your vocabulary. And then finally you are speaking that way, and you realize that it's not a specific, a 2 + 2 = 4 type language. It's really a constant poetic mix of things going on, and
you're allowing it to come through you.
Yes.
That's the difference. You're not forcing it on the page. No. You're open to allowing it to come through you.
I just realized too, it's very much like connected to that art we were talking about, like nature. Here's nature out all around us, and I think our assignment in the Garden of Eden is to be the artists, to build on that and do beautiful things with it, which we already do. Like even in our most messed up, like here's a beautiful bowl, 2 colors. You guys can't see it very well, but just I mean, it's plain in our neighborhood. Those 2 colors are so beautiful there, and so
orange and blue.
Yeah. So art. So we continue. Where it's like, wow, wouldn't that be great to just be humans in Eden doing art, and talking in the language of nature and feeling it all the time. So that's our goal. That's our goal here, that we're hoping to go through this terrible period, which maybe we could talk about another time, but this transitional time we're going through. But so at any rate, the green tongue gives you the ability to describe these things. And the interesting thing is that people just constantly actually understand what you're talking about, even if you don't describe the same thing twice the same way, And also another thing about it is that I learned when I learned how to speak was that, like, people love to have their mind enlarged. Like, they actually love it, and it's like, not like, they don't resist it. Like, if you try to tell people what they should think politically, or you're red, I'm blue, you're blue, I'm purple, or whatever, like you like, they'll resist it. But if you just talk like it just crosses boundaries, like to just kind of talk and see these patterns and talk that way, and enlarge people's conceptions, and they love it. And it's like, because people really want to grow. Even the ones that are negatively oriented, they want to expand too, and hopefully they'll figure things out and join the right side. But
I think what you're saying is the problem to expansion is focusing in on this binary world, this world of duality, where everything has to be left and right, red and blue. That we're always seeing these divisions, and we divide ourselves that way. But what we really are trying to express, the soul is trying to express, is to go beyond these, to transcend this duality into what nature offers us, which are patterns. So I say that we really can't look at temperature as hot and cold, because if you look on a thermometer, you have degrees or a
Yeah.
continuum
Yeah.
of temperature. It's not
Yeah.
one or the other.
Yeah.
You have this continuum, and that's what nature is.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we make suppositions. I mean, just about temperature. Like for the Greeks, temperature was first degree, second degree, third degree. First degree, warmed you up like on a hot summer day. Second degree, you felt feverish. Third degree, you're becoming manic. And fourth degree burned you, like, because they didn't have a temperature. They just had to describe what that felt like. That was their temperature. They didn't have a thermometer. That's what I mean.
And that's what herbalists do so well. They talk about the tissue states that way in degrees.
Yes. Right. Yes.
We could talk about energetics in the next section, but because that is a whole different subject. But we're kind of building up to that.
Yeah.
In a really intuitive way. I think we have to understand the concepts first before we can get to really understanding where we're going that way.
Yeah.
But you've done such a beautiful job.
Oh, thank you.
Is there anything else you want to say? Maybe doctrine of signatures? Is that something?
Yes. That's perfect. Yeah. So you begin to see. So what oak does for itself is this kind of conservative, drawn back, like tightly bark, like then that's oak essence, which is in the medicine. So oak essence, it's extremely astringent. Okay. So it's one of the master astringents, like alum root. There's maybe one or two that are more astringent, but it is like highly astringent. So you can't just eat lots of it. I mean, if it's not going to kill you unless you fall in a vat of it or something. Astringe yourself to death. But otherwise, it's safe. But you can't have big doses.
It's to tighten. That's for those people who don't understand what astringents are, or who aren't herbalists. It's to tighten and.
Yeah, and so it's good. It tightens the gums. It's good for gum disease. It tightens if the teeth are like loose. It tightens the tendon onto the bone. It
leaky vessels.
Yeah.
Does it tighten leaky vessels? Yeah. Okay.
Yep. It's good for varicose veins, hemorrhoids. It may be good for leaky gut and things like that. There's things about it we don't know. So it's good. It tightens and it makes you more oak-like.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then we have Dr. Bach's testimony. He gives us the mental state. He says it's for people who fight on against adversity, never give up, but never succeed. Well, so like that's like being kind of stuck between not astringed enough and too astringed, or astringed.
Vacillating.
You're not there all the way. You're fighting to get there, but you're not there. So it's very oak-like, I think. So then it's good for addiction. It has a history both in homeopathy and in
that makes sense that
flower.
It's used in homeopathy.
Yeah.
It's used for that specific affliction.
Yeah. Yeah. Because people who are fighting on against their addiction but not succeeding, so it really helps strengthen that integrity within it. There's some case histories, a fun book, Dorothy Shepard. A Physician's Posy, published in the 1930s. She's got some case histories, and one of them, like a whole bunch of them are cures, and then one, the famous actor who's a total alcoholic and abusive to his family. He's retired, and he starts taking the oak, and he comes back to her and says, "I don't want to take that. It ruins my taste for sherry."
He's resisting.
Yes.
He's a mighty oak, and he's not going to change.
Well, yeah, his problem maybe lies under a different tree.
Yeah. Okay.
But so there you see the oak on every level, and it's communicating. It's like physical. Oh, and then three nights ago, I had a dream. This makes so much sense. I mean, I don't know. Some of these dreams, like, duh, I could have thought that myself, but you and I were just
because you were going to talk to me. Is that why you had the dream?
Well, no. Well, I actually the next day I taught, and I mean, it's perfectly timed for several different events.
Okay.
But I dreamed that it was good psychic protection. And it's like, well, of course, if you're kind of astringed, your boundaries are more astringed, it's going to be psychic protection.
Nice.
So I thought both of wearing oak and of maybe taking it too. But I do take it. If your teeth start to get sore, it also gets rid of cavities. Like okay, this is proven. People have actually had X-rays and things like that. I actually had cavities on the outside right at the gum line, and they came and they went when I took oak bark. After 35 years, I went to the dentist. I lost a tooth due to a root canal, a root getting infected. But after 35 years, I had two small cavities. Yeah. And if I'd kept on taking oak right before going to the dentist, I'd have probably had none. But
Wow,
so
that is a great testament to oak
yeah,
on many different
yeah,
levels, but
yeah,
especially in our day, everybody's eating sugar, and
yeah,
this is a great way.
yeah.
Well, we don't want to, you know,
Don't eat sugar.
Yeah, we don't want to say eat
Yeah.
sugar and take oak.
Yeah, but maybe it'll help you with that addiction too. So
That's true.
yeah,
Yeah, you won't crave it anymore.
yeah,
So that's great.
yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah. So that's the doctrine signatures extending from level to level to level, and part of that green tongue, so to speak. And all the herbs have that, different levels like that. So indeed, that's one of the things I was trying to prove with this book, or to show, or you can't really prove it. You can only tell the story. You can only demonstrate it intuitively. And actually, that was another thing I noticed about the green tongue. Actually, I noticed this because the plants would teach this way. They'd say, so I helped somebody with gravel roots. So it said, it talked to me, and it said, you can tell I'm a turtle medicine, because just as Grandfather Turtle rose up out of the sea in the beginning of time to create the first earth, so too do I rise out of the swamp to create the first soil. So I was like, and my mind was like, well, that was so complicated. I couldn't even have made it up myself.
It was poetic.
Yes.
So you knew it was from nature.
Yeah, but also, one thing, it took me years to realize, it said, you can tell. Like, it's not, I'm telling you that I am. It's like, you can tell if you're interested, but you don't, I'm not going to force you to know.
It's not dictating.
Yeah, yeah. And then I realized, like everything Jesus said is like, the kingdom of heaven is like you can follow me there, and or you can not, but I'm not telling you have to do this or that. It's like this or that. So I think the great spiritual teachers, as they get more and more, they talk in those metaphors too. But that's how the plants talk. That's my experience.
Wow.
So yeah.
Jesus
every once in a while
was very connected to nature. This is what we can say, that he was not against nature, and that looking to nature is not anti-Jesus.
No.
People have to understand these are all connected. Jesus was a part of nature. He understood that, and he was speaking in a language that the people of his time could understand.
Yeah, yeah. Which was, I would say, it was fairly natural social. Like, the kingdom of heaven. A man is not fit for the kingdom of heaven who, starts. Man who plows the field and turns back is not fit for the kingdom of heaven. Like you're plowing, you got to finish. So, and that's so part of social, human, natural. It's just, so yeah, finding those themes in nature or society. Yeah, part of the green tongue.
That's wonderful. Did we want to, do you have a good definition for, we didn't really define doctrine of signatures, but you have many great definitions in your books.
Yeah.
Is there one you want to express?
So the signature is that the plant looks like something, looks like, just real strict, simple. The plant looks like an organ, or it's spotted. It looks like a disease, spots, or it looks like, or it grows in a place that's damp and dry, like the kidney signature. The kidney plants often grow like gravel root or horsetail right at the edge of the water in the solid, or in the sand that is wet, or another bunch of them grow in the rocks. The roots are breaking up the rocks like breaking up stones,
So the plant shows you its use based on its color, its where it grows, its shape. It's and it matches the personality or the person. Also.
Yep. Yeah. And so then, right, on every level, usually the disease is manifest on every level, and it kicks it out, and it gets to the body memory, which is where it's really entrenched inside the body. So the doctrine of signatures also teaches us like treats like, because the signature is like the disease, and that's, on the other hand, in herbalism we also use hot to cold. Like, you got chilled, so you take a hot tea. Anybody who went outside in Minnesota or Wisconsin weather, we would go in and how to warm yourself up if you possibly can. You have 10 techniques, most of which are not getting in a cold bathtub. Like, it's
you're right. We're not going to drink iced lemonade when we're cold.
Right, right.
Or
yeah.
eat ice cream.
Yeah, or put on socks that like we put in the freezer or something.
Right.
So it's warm to hot on one level. Now, yeah, okay, if you get hypothermia, you can't actually just go and get real warmed up. You actually have to warm yourself up slowly. So then there are some limits to hot and cold, but it's like homeopathy and herbalism need to understand each other a little better. Herbs treat both by hot to cold and like it looks like what it's for, but it's also warming where you need warmth and so on. That's nature, as I said in our last thing. Nature thinks in terms of hot and cold and damp and dry, and these great patterns.
Yeah,
so.
And I think we need to go into the next subject to talk more deeply about the energetics, what you're talking about, right? So maybe that's, should we continue on with that then?
So we're
Unless you have
pretty
anything.
well done. Yeah, the doctrine of signatures is universal too. We can say that. And just to introduce it, then there's what's called the spirit signatures. So from the time I was a kid, I was 13, 14, studying herbs in my mind a little bit, not very much. I didn't know much, but I thought, oh, the way to organize plants is by animal. It's like, how would I know that, But that is indeed the way the Indian people do it, American Indian people, or it's the way, and it's built into, like the name for burdock, arctium, of the bear. It's built into language often, But so that then, but I didn't know how to apply that until I met Native American herbalist Karen Sanders of Blue Otter School in Northern California. Anybody who's interested. So she said, "Oh, Matt, have you heard of you haven't heard of the spirit signature?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "That's when the plant looks like an animal or is used by the animal in some way." And that then, it's like burdock looks kind of bear-like, and brown, and then furry, etc. So indeed, like when the plant looks like an animal, you get a special depth, and those are even more powerful herbs. They say, I couldn't prove it, but when it has the animal signature.
And then you go further in your shamanism herbalism, your shaman herbalism class that I took. You talk about people being the animal.
Yes.
And then that shows you the animal medicine, or the medicine that you need.
Yeah.
So you describe yourself as?
Oh, I'm a bear type here, or
at least
physical type.
But you're also a wolf?
Yes, that's more on the inner level.
Yeah, and they have different personality types, different archetypes.
Yeah.
I think of myself as a turtle, and I think I've dreamed of being a turtle.
Oh, wow.
So I think everybody, if you look at his description of the different animal medicines, you can actually align yourself with one or two that you believe are more like you, and that will help you understand yourself in a new way.
Well, this is interesting. Gee, if we just may go on for a few minutes.
Dreaming
of your animal, dreaming that you are that animal, that is a profound shamanic transformation. That's like, how shamans are supposed to be able to turn themselves into animals. Like, that's not actually totally healthy, like, because that becomes a biological urge. You can't fight it off, and you have to be that animal. It's kind of boring. You got to go out in the woods and be a turtle, But,
no, I haven't had those dreams since that first one.
You actually want the human to control the animal. It's not the end of the world. You just become an animal. If it's the other way around. Here's a human and animal. But so that's the beginning. Shamanism. What is the eternal symbol of the shaman? Is like half human, half animal, and that's because they have dreamed of their animal type. And when they do that, you cross the threshold, you get your animal self, and that is actually, that's the actualization, or the visualization to yourself in dream time of your vital self, of your animal self, of your body. But see, but it goes more, you're getting a body in dream time, because like previous to that, in dream time, you had to rely on your physical senses, and you're more distorted. But after you dream of your animal, you get eyes and ears in dream time, in the spirit world. And then things start to become clearer. You get that lucid dreaming, and clearer, clearer, clearer. And that's the basis of shamanism. And the basis of shamanism isn't to perform magic, but to develop ourselves spiritually. And that's the crucial. I mean, once you've done that, dream your animal type, it's like a lifetime change, that like you're on the other side of the slope. Like I thought enlightenment, like, I don't really believe in that. Like just one big change. Oh, but that's what that is.
I was a sea turtle, and I was separating
Yeah.
myself with pulling the weeds away with me, like separating myself from
Oh.
the old
Oh.
world, or the old
Oh. Wow. Yeah.
relationships that I had.
Yeah.
And so I was moving in a new direction, and
Yeah.
I really it felt powerful to me. Like it was a stepping across a line. It was going in seeing the world in a different way, and knowing that I'm choosing that direction. So I think a lot of people do have these dreams, and they just poo-poo them away like they're not significant, but they are significant.
It was 20 years after I had my dream of being a wolf that I read it in a book that the shamans of Mexico, that meant that you had eyes and ears in the spirit world, and that was the primal transformation.
Wow, that's really important to know that.
It took me 20 years because no one told me. So that would actually be, if we talk about shamanism, that would be which we were thinking about. That would be talking about this, about the different selves of the shaman: the animal self, the human self, the spirit self. Let's see. So, but we won't talk about that now. But we touched upon that. So you guys, if you're like interested, and let's see. So yeah, and then so that's the spirit signature, and that leads on to that important thing. So okay, that kind of finishes us up.
Sums it up.
Here.
Well, wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Matt, once again for part 2. Thank you all for listening, and we will end here and start part 3 on the energetics and herbalism.
Yeah.